This is the fifth in my series of videos on the local church and God's worldwide movement. In the last one, we looked at what churches should do about legacy missionaries that they have always supported, but with whom they don't really have a live contact. Today, I'd like to look at another issue, which is at the other end of the scale, and that's the question of what do you do when a member of your church, probably, but not always, a young person, comes to you and says that they'd like to go on a short-term mission trip. How does that fit into what you as a church are doing? I think you need to look at three questions in order to answer that question. The first is, what is the person like? Do you genuinely think that they should be involved in some sort of Christian work? Have they got something to contribute? Do they have the maturity needed? Are they committed to life in your church? Are they already serving in some way? Quite honestly, if the person who's suggesting they go on a short-term trip isn't someone you would trust leading your own youth group, why would you send them to be involved in something on the other side of the world? Is the person somebody you want to see involved in Christian mission? If not, tell them so and tell them why, but also provide them some guidance how you could help them grow, how you as a church can see them mature as a disciple, so that in a year or 2 years' time they would be in a place where they could go onto some sort of short-term trip. Don't just turn them down, help them to grow. Second thing to think about is the trip. Always ask, is the organisation signed up to Global Connections document on short-term mission? I'll put a link to that in the description of the video, but Global Connections have excellent guidelines for running short-term missions, and if the organisation isn't signed up to that, basically don't get involved. Then, is what the person's talking about basically a sanctified holiday? I mean, if they want to go on holiday to Thailand and to visit some Christians, that's great. Who wouldn't? But they should pay for it themselves. If the primary motivation or the primary thing that's done is basically tourism, I don't think you as a church should pay for it. You have limited finances and you need to use them wisely. Next thing I'd say is the trip doing anything harmful? The idea of sending a bunch of kids to Africa to build a classroom for a school might sound fantastic, it's exciting. But why would you spend thousands of pounds sending a bunch of unqualified, inexperienced young people to build a school when there are local builders who are struggling to make a living? Exporting unemployment is not a good look. And on that note, just avoid anything that looks like orphanage tourism, like the plague. There's enough literature on that. Don't send people to orphanages. Just don't. And then, last thing, is it really a mission trip? There is no such thing, ultimately, as short-term mission. Mission is a long-term business of building disciples. But there is a real place for short-term workers within a long-term context. So is there a long-term context that this mission trip is happening in? And then, what about your church? The third area, look at the person, look at the trip, and look at your church. What is your church's strategy for mission? If you've got this far, you may have worked it out from some of the earlier videos. But does this short-term trip fit in with what you see your church's involvement? Is it going to a part of the world that you want to be involved with? Is it involved with a ministry that you want to be involved with? If not, don't support it. You could always, if you think this young person is a good person to go on a trip, then reorientate them to something that your church does have an involvement with. Now, I might have come across negative about short-term mission. I think there is a massive capacity for short-term mission to do good. When we lived in an African village, we were so helped by people who came out to work with us, some to help with the children, others to help with different aspects of our work. It was a real blessing. When it is done well, short-term mission is fantastic, but the key is doing it well, and churches have a role to play in ensuring that these short-term trips are good. One very last thing, everything I've said here could be applied to long-term mission service too. I'm not going to do a separate video on that because the issues are exactly the same. Check the person, check what they're going to be doing, and check that it lines up with your church's involvement. If not, don't support it. See you on the next one.